how do you find that connection? And I always ask people who are spiritualists and parents, how do you find that connection between deep love and also being detached and also letting them find their own path? Like we want to nurture them or give them what they need or what we think they need. And how do you become detached when they make some perhaps horrific choices or you're riddled in fear of what they're going through? How to find that balance? How have you walked that slack line?
Yeah, I mean, it is literally like the greatest, spiritual path. I think for me, it started at the beginning, like many of us who share this love of devotion and the breath, the one. I never considered them my children. I always knew they were their own spiritual beings with, many lifetimes and their own purpose.
Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya.
Live from Super Soul Farm, this is Wisdom of the Sages, a daily spiritual podcast with your host, Raghunath. And today is interview day. And before we bring on our special guest, Miss Mara has no announcements.
I don't.
Which leads me to my announcements. I'm taking a group of beautiful people to India for my annual pilgrimage. June 29th, it's on my website, raghunath.yoga.
October 29th.
October 29th. I said June. Don't go to India in June. Big mistake. You will fry like an egg. Don't do it. But October 29th, we're going to beautiful cities in Rajasthan, going to go to Jaipur, Rishikesh, Dev Prayag, Haridwar, end up in Govardhan Hill and Vrindavan. If you've never been to India and have spiritual desires to go to such a place, this is the trip. I've been taking people since 2007. It's pretty good, 2007. We have a special guest today, and we're good. No more announcements with Mara.
No, I think we're on all week at 7 and back to 7 a.m. Eastern time tomorrow.
Back to 7 a.m. Eastern time, live from my mother's apartment in New York City. That's where we're doing the pod. Maybe we can get her.
Maybe a special guest.
Maybe we should get my mom for some words of wisdom. She's 98 years old, and she's got the bigger mouth than me. So I think it might be a good opportunity. We are going to introduce our special guest who's live from California. Julie Piatt, also known as Srimati, is a committed spiritualist, while at the same time deals with the brick and mortar of this realm. She's an entrepreneur and author of 3 plant-based cookbooks. I've got one right here. This cheese is nuts. The founder of Shrimu, a vegan cheese company, a leader of yoga retreats to exotic locations, has a big spiritual community called Water Tiger. She's a singer and a songwriter, on top of all that, an artist, a mother of 4. She must have many, many incarnations to get all this done. A mother of 4, and I've known her through my 2 visits to the Rich Roll podcast because she's married to Rich Roll. And as wonderful as Rich is, you, my friend Srimati, you are a beautiful force of nature yourself. Welcome to the show.
Thank you so much. Thank you for having me. I'm so touched that you guys gather at this time in the morning. It's so beautiful, this connection, the experience. I feel like there's so much talking. There's so much talking and like no one's experiencing. So I love it that you are together. So thank you for including me.
It's nice. We started this podcast in 2020 before people even heard of Zoom, and it just sort of it took off very quickly. And we started at 5 a.m. every morning because it was an extension of our 5 a.m. class that I would give here at our farm, and where some locals would come. And then it just sort of kept on. We kept it at 5 for a while, but now we've sort of softened up in our old age, and we now start at 7 o'clock. And on weekends, we call it Sleeping Sunday, where they get to sleep till 8 o'clock. Now, of course, you're in California, so you're up at the OG time, 5 a.m. Thank you. Sometimes people aren't ready to talk to anybody, including Mara. Mara doesn't like to talk so much at
Yeah, I'm not so much of a morning talker.
And so we go well like that together, but thank you very much. Is anybody else up at the household?
Rich has already left, actually. He's writing a book right now. So he leaves usually in the middle of the night, maybe 2:30 or 3.
You know, it's a magic time to write
Yeah.
and
Yeah.
to do anything. I've
Mhm.
found my meditation has generally has been at 4:30 a.m. But the last couple nights I've been getting up at 3:30 just because it's and sometimes you want to my nature is, you know what, just cheat a little. Hit that snooze button. Just 6 more minutes will make you happier. And it's such a cheater because those morning hours are precious for thoughts, for stillness, for mind. And the yogis knew this. And that's beautiful to hear that that's how he's writing.
Mhm.
How are your morning rituals?
Well, except for this morning, because I wanted to make sure that there was no chance that I'd miss the interview. I don't ever use an alarm clock, ever.
Mm,
Never, ever, ever. And I just wake up when my guidance wakes me up. So it could be, it could be at 1, it could be at 2, it could be at 3, it could be at 4. But most of the times, this is my, like, just like you said, this is my power shock, shakti devotional time. So I don't, it's what feeds the entire experience of life. So it's
nice.
these times that I get the messages, that I'm inspired, that I'm filled with devotion and meaning. So
Mhm.
for me, it's this moment is everything. It's just usually I'm in the dark. It's just me because I got up at, I don't know, 4, I guess, to get ready. So, but
Well,
yeah, this is the secret sauce, really.
it was a big game changer when I was a young man because I went from working in a nightclub in New York City, staying up till 4:30 a.m., and then moving into an ashram and waking up at 2:30 a.m. or 3:30 a.m. And I was like, wow, there's a current in my material mind that says stay up later, watch, click the channels, go somewhere else. There's some excitement out there if you can just stay up a few minutes longer. And it's the opposite. It's the opposite. The magic is in the morning. If I can just get to bed early and discipline myself for that, the magic happens in the morning. The thoughts come in the morning. There's less static. There's less noise, and yeah, it's the magic hour.
Yeah, and it's also interesting. You probably share this as a singer and a songwriter. It's like everything that I write, I play all my instruments seated on the floor. I
Mm.
write everything in the morning hours, and I sing in the morning hours, which is the antithesis of what a singer, all the singers, like if we're doing vocals, they do them at 5 p.m. But I'm like,
Right.
no, I have to do mine at 4 a.m.
It's such the opposite of rock and roll life,
Uh-huh.
which was I hated. I actually hated being in the studio recording music. And you're a singer songwriter. You're birthing records. I call that. I've heard you explain it like that. Um, but I feel the same way. Like the studios I've recorded at, they're like really into working through the night, and it just doesn't jive with who I am. And it just throw and touring. I just came back from my book release and band reunion tour through Europe. Same thing. Like I go to bed at 8:30, 9:30, and here we are. I got to pull this off and have a meditation time at 10 in the morning. It's just backwards. It's naturally backwards.
Mhm.
Um,
Yeah.
now I wanted to get into because I cruised through your bio, which if you don't mind, I wrote your bio for you. I'm sure
Thank
you have
you.
bios out there, but it's a beautiful bio. But I skipped quickly past you're a mother of 4 kids. Do you have any children at home presently?
Yeah, well, so my kids are 30, 28, 21, and almost 18.
Oh wow.
So, and the strange thing is the younger ones are they're away. So my youngest one is at boarding school at an art high school called Idlewild. She's studying film. She's directed her first movie actually a couple weekends ago. And then my other daughter is at art school in Chicago at SAIC. And then my older sons are living with us. Like since COVID, they came back and they're here, and we, like most parents, love our kids to death. And so we love having them here, but we're very lucky because we have 3 acres, and the buildings are sort of like little compounds, so everyone has their own sort of space, and then we come together in the center and then go away.
You know, I want to bring that back too. I've got, since your kids are a little older than mine, not much. I've raised 5 kids. 2 I raised since they were little. They weren't mine seminally, but in 3 I had myself. They just came through my body. But how do you find that connection? And I always ask people who are spiritualists and parents, how do you find that connection between deep love and also being detached and also letting them find their own path? Like, we want to nurture them or give them what they need or what we think they need. And how do you become detached when they make some perhaps horrific choices, or you riddle them fear of what they're going through? How to find that balance? How have you walked that slack line?
Yeah, it's I mean, it is literally like the greatest spiritual path. I think for me it started at the beginning, like many of us who share this love of devotion and the breath, the one. I never considered them my children. I always knew they were their own spiritual beings with, many lifetimes and their own purpose. And so, in the bhakti and the devotion, their life belongs to her. It doesn't belong to me. And I don't even, like when people say you have to teach children X, like I never taught my children anything. They are my gurus. They are my teachers. And it's by, being engaged in the living moments and being vulnerable, taking accountability, and fiercely mothering or parenting or fathering our children, that we have a real experience. And yeah, it's the most difficult when you know that your child is suffering. I've gone through everything from a gender confusion period to drug abuse or I'd say, well, yeah, abuse, but drug use, teenager, right. Depression in my older son, where I could feel that, he was in danger. It's like as a mother, these things. And it's really present. And so in each of those experiences, you are called to guard at the highest level because that's the contract. But yet in those experiences, like for instance, the gender situation, we knew it wasn't organic to the being, like it came out of nowhere. And yet if you put a hard line down, against the child, then the child will rebel, and you want to receive and hear and respect and love where everyone is. And so in all of these situations, even all of it, the drugs, the depression, what it requires is an expansive presence of unconditional love with no agenda, not saying, I want you to stop using, I want you to. So what I do is I just muster as much unconditional love and hold them in the vision of their highest life experience being actualized. And for me, that is a Christic act. It's the Christ consciousness, the Christ consciousness is holding the highest vision despite all appearances to the contrary. Right. And so that's the great work in life. When we're struggling, we don't need someone to say, why is this happening? And why don't you do this? And why don't you try that? And, I really think you've lost your way. What we need to hear in that moment is, you know what? I trust you and I believe in you, and I'm going to be right here. and
Mm,
I know who you are.
mm.
So I will be here in full presence and witness your evolution.
Do I say that, Mara? I say that. I say that. We are living parallel lives, you and I, on parallel parts of the United States, eating
So,
parallel vegan cheeses. Um, you said something very beautiful. I've been having a Srimati Julie Piatt, uh, a fanboy obsession in the last few weeks since gearing up for this interview. And usually I'm doing it on a treadmill, or lately I've been building a fence and just listening to stuff on headphones. But you said something really nice in an interview that I had to like stop everything, write this down, and just see if I can remember it. You said something about birth as being the great separation, or the sadness that comes with when we come into this world, and then we come into a body and we're already heartbroken at the very beginning, and then our precious life is trying to figure out our way back home. It was so poetic, and it is such a beautiful description of the embodied journey. And I guess that's what we're doing with our kids too. We're giving birth. There's a sadness, like, where am I? Who am I? What am I doing here? Do you want to elaborate on that a little bit more? I mean, it's a very complete sentence in itself, but you may want to give some commentary on it
yeah.
about, especially in regards to parenting, because it seems like you're just the assistant of helping them find their way back home.
Yeah. At least we want to think that we're helping them find their way back home, but actually the one is orchestrating everything. So, but thank you for touching on that transmission that came through me. I think one of the great things that I've learned, I'm 62. And I've been through a lot of life experience. My bio, could seem kind of annoying. I'm actually going up to a 2-day fire homa with a Swami that I'm connected to, named Swami Vidyadishananda from Hansa Veda. And he said to me once, he said, Srimati, you're so connected to the mother that some people find you a little overly creative.
I get it. I get it.
I thought that was a very sweet description. But this teaching that you just pointed to, one thing that I've discovered is that I am a deep romantic, like a romantic beyond like divine romance. It's the romance that is the quest. And what I realized is that as an artist, as a mother, as a lover, as a partner, as a wife, really no experience in life, no matter how, exalted it is, it's still not it. And through meditation, I experienced that heartbreak. I realized that, in your personality, you're like, well, this isn't the right relationship, or I was making this painting and there's a gap between what the vision is and what ends up on the canvas, or it's always like, yeah, not quite it,
Right.
not quite.
Even sometimes in great works of art, there's still that.
Yeah.
Mm.
So that's what I'm talking about. Is I think it was a great liberation, and maybe to those around me as well, for me to understand that I was heartbroken from the very beginning when I separated from her. And the whole life is remembering that way back into that integration. So then it eases the sting, on the other things. And not always. It's not like I don't consider myself I'm a happy person, and I write songs that I really love. I love what I create. And I don't even think it's mine. It's like, so I can talk really, lovingly about it, because it's just the breath through me. It's not Julie, who did it. But yeah, I think that's a really powerful truth, that we're all heartbroken. And then this is a thing that I think is really profound in parenting, because I'm down the road a few years ahead of you in this.
And not that much ahead of me. By the way, I like to say I'm in my 50s. I am a sneeze. I'm a sneeze away from 60. I just, yeah,
Well, it's
I'm right behind you.
we're all rejuvenating and like reordering anyway during this time. So I'm really open to the miraculous of what these bodies are going to do.
Mm.
I forgot what I was going to say. Let's see. It'll come back.
Okay. So yeah, I like the fact that you gave permission for a sadness, because I feel like I have that too. I'm pretty upbeat. I'm pretty positive. I got a good attitude, but there is a sadness that I recognize from childhood that something's not fitting in the God-shaped hole. No matter what I'm stuffing in it, it's just not clicking properly. Doesn't mean I don't have fun. Doesn't mean I don't like excitement. Doesn't mean I don't like adventure. But there was a sadness. And as I got popular with my music as a teenager, I felt like now I'm just surrounded by more people, and it's almost turning up the volume of my aloneness. And it was a real catapult for me going deeper into myself. And I don't know, perhaps I tried in therapy and 12-step meetings, I tried to go deep into finding what was that original disconnect. Because I think when people who go through addiction of any sorts, it's alcohol, it's not the drugs, it's not the sex, it's not the gambling, it's that sadness, that disconnect from the mother, from the family, from God, that is actually giving that secondary result. For some people, it comes out in alcohol, drugs, etc. But it all traces back to that emptiness of the heart. And so I've done a lot of everything from hypnosis to talk therapy to everything to go back. You know, I know in this our generation, I don't know about your mom, but we didn't breastfeed. That could be a disconnect. Also, they took the child out of the arms of the mother, isolated into a sterile environment. That could be it. It could be a reason why all these addictive things are happening. And also, we carry a type of sadness from other lives as well. And part of me feels, you know what? That sadness was such a gift. If you feel sad, or if you have that melancholiness, I'm just going to put that out there to double confirm your okayness. It's okay. It's okay. That could be your God bait. You know what I mean? That could be what shoots you in that spiritual direction.
Definitely. That's beautifully put. And I remembered what I was going to say, which is relevant, which is as a parent, okay, so you can take any life experience, and as we know, every child is different, right? So you can say, and normally what we do is we try to resolve our own pain through our children. So we're like, if we were never chosen for, the volleyball team, we're going to make sure that our kid is on a volleyball team and is the best player. It's like, that's our psychosis as parents.
We're so sick in the head.
But what I would say is that no matter the life experience, so coming into the human realm, we are in the world of form and we are in a world of polarity. So when we separate from the breath, from the one, from her, and we come in, we are going to find the constriction. We're going to find the pain point. So if you have a mother that was always there for you, your pain point is going to be, she never left me alone. She was always in my space. She made me feel, watched and never gave me independence. And I never learned how to be independent. And then if you have a mother who lets you go free, then the child or the human is going to say, I never had a protector. She was never there. She never watched me. And so it's just
always finding a good person to blame.
Yeah, but I mean, it's a setup because you're looking for the constriction. You're looking for that opposite so that you can find. And one of the gurus that I studied with, that I sort of drove by for a very profound moment. He's the one who named me Ma Ananda Srimati. But he would talk about this concept of how, as a human being, we create a story of illusion. So most of the time, people create a story of suffering. So it starts with the story, my mother got pregnant really young and she never wanted me. First link. Then the life goes and it's like, and then my parents divorced when I was 3, second link. And then I was bullied at school when I was 6, third link. And you've created this whole identity, but if you look at it, there are millions of moments, millions happening, but the personality will choose and collect the ones that it wants to make. Now, like less common, you have what I call the super duper people, where you're like, how are you? And they're like, super, so they choose the happy story. I'm so lucky, first link. I've always been the chosen one, second link. Everyone always loves me, third link. And they create this other illusion. And what he was saying is both are lies. Both of those stories are lies, because we're the bed of consciousness that holds all of these perspectives. So if we have some agency of mind, of creation, I challenge, but suggest, if you have someone who has hurt you deeply in your life, try the experiment just by yourself. Write a story of gratitude, of joy. Like write it differently, write the script differently, and observe and see, how that might change. So as parents, it doesn't matter what you do. You cannot out-parent the constriction and the pain that life will bring your child. It is a setup. And
wow.
we become in these, we become more in these adversarial or difficult or constricting experiences. It's how we become.
Beautifully said. Thank you. I think with my own kids, they're at this point. Well, my present, the kid's right in front of my face right now. They're at that point where they're a little Gen Z-ish, and I'm trying to encourage them in certain ways, which is almost a little manipulative. But at the same time, my father had a different plan. It was sort of like, if you stop following my rules, get out of my house. Told me that when I was 14. And I just, I ended up leaving when I was 18, but I felt sort of empowered. You find a difference between sort of over enabling and helicopter parenting and sort of pulling back and just pushing them out of the nest. It seems like children nowadays are more nesty than maybe our generation.
It's true. It is true. I mean, we were taught, our children, they didn't want to drive. We're like, what? What do you mean? I think my sons didn't get their licenses till they were 19 and 20.
I know.
It's so weird.
I had my license a month after I was 16.
I know. But I mean, in a way, it's sort of sweet, because I mean, the relationships that we're having with our children are much deeper. I mean, yeah, they're much deeper. And I had parents that were loving and there for me their whole lives, but it's a different thing. Now it's like this back and forth, where it's real, it's vulnerable and honest in a way. It's an interrelation, I think, at a different level.
Were you a tough kid to parent?
No, except I'm highly independent. And so, one of the reasons why we wanted me to be on your show, and thank you so much for including me, is that I have a lot to teach, and I definitely have chosen a personality type that is supposed to be in the public. But I have this other thing of high independence and invisibility, sort of like a tiger. So I'll come in and I'm loyal and I'll be showy and I have stripes on, and then I'll just go missing. And I don't want anybody to know where I am. So I'm unparentable. If somebody tells me what to do, it's immediate switch just goes off. So
I can
the
totally
good news
relate.
is that I was the fifth kid, so my mom had kind of given up.
Yeah.
You know, I went to a fishing village at a place called Prince William Sound in Alaska. You had to take a train to go through two tunnels to get there. And I went with my neighbor, my friend who was 4 years older than I was, and we would be completely unsupervised for days hiking in the mountains. No cell phone, no water, no bear spray, no food. No
I
one
think it
knew
was
where we
before. I think it
were.
was before cell phones and bear spray.
Exactly.
Those are modern. Both of them are modern.
Modern things. So, but you know, I attribute that to high creativity and you know street smarts, maybe in a different way than you. I was
Yeah.
in Alaska and you were on the East Coast, maybe. I don't know.
Yeah. Well, I was in Connecticut. I was a Boy Scout. I was very connected to nature as a child, and I'm grateful for that. But you grew up in Alaska?
Yeah, in Alaska. My dad was a hunter. I was raised on game meat. My dad was a bush pilot and a civil engineer and worked with the native cultures up there for 47 years.
Oh, wow.
So
Yeah. I have not been to. Have you been to Alaska? No, I've not been to Alaska. That's I think maybe one of two states I've never been to.
mhm.
Um, but yeah, I can see how that outdoor connection I find is one of those training grounds that it's the reason why I moved to a farm because I wanted to give my kids nature from childhood. Although at the same time, like you were saying, we can give, but they have to also accept. So I'm hoping they're all connected. They had homeschooling, Waldorf schooling, which was a 400-acre biodynamic farm. But
Amazing.
I think yeah, they went to they were what was that other school that they went to that Flying Deer,
Flying
which
deer.
was like primitive living school for a while. So
That's
yeah,
I mean, that's gold. What you've given them is gold, and also to really that you know, nature is, I think, one of the most important uh, you know, experiences for kids. But it's hilarious because my daughter, you know, I created a new system of education. I unschooled and
boom, unschooled, love it, love it.
unschooled, had this incredible experience. And my first daughter with Rich, she would have been diagnosed on a spectrum of some, she was literally five beings in one body, required my energy 24/7. I
Mm.
was running energy through her and she never let go of my leg for 8 years. And now she wrote her college essay on, you know, her trauma and troubles of being homeschooled. And then and at one
Way to
point,
go! She should have went to my junior high school. That we get some trauma and troubles going out there.
yeah, but you see, it's a perfect example of what
Yeah.
I just said, you know, which is it's comical. I mean, life is funny. We have to laugh and just. She said to me at one point, like during the pandemic, you know, she was like, "I need a diagnosis." I was like, "I did everything in my power to make sure you didn't have a diagnosis." But in the end, you know, they do come back. Like my kids are, all of that is in them. They can sort of kick and scream, and but it's there. And as parents, you know, we have those 12 years. For 12 years, you are the
Yeah,
God figure, and at
yeah.
those years, you have the ability and the privilege and the responsibility to infuse with as much as you can, and then whatever they end up doing, you know, it's their life.
Yeah, that's a great way to put it. And I have to keep on reflecting on that, that, you're with them every day. You're their God figure. They hold you in the highest esteem. And then if you culminate all the time they spend after they move out of the house, which sometimes is 16, 17, 18. I was 18 when I moved out. The time we spend with them is like tiny.
Mhm,
And so, yeah, it's very cherishable time.
mhm,
Um, you're saying this thing about you're spending time in nature. I find it so important that like that time by yourself. Like
mhm,
Kostuba, my co-host partner, I'm going to visit my mom. So the only way I can tolerate New York City nowadays at my age is I go to Central Park. It's like I have all the greatest parks, or I live in a park. I live in Central Park, I feel. But I have to take my bicycle. I'll take my bicycle in the back of my truck and I will just ride around. And he was like, "Well, we should hang out together. We should ride bikes together." I was like, I don't want to. I'm just trying to every way to make an excuse because that is like private time with me and nature. That's where I think and reflect, and that's where like I get this inner conversation going. My conversation with God happens then, and sometimes that's the most important time, just to be connected alone with God, with nature. And yeah, I'm glad I'm situated here, and that is the only way I can dose New York City nowadays. People don't get it, but I think you get that.
I get that. Totally
Yeah.
get that.
Uh, Now uh, you have this beautiful community. This podcast doesn't go that long, so I just want to make sure we touch all these bases.
Okay.
This beautiful community. I want to end on. I want to end with that. But also, how do you also not slip into your exclusive material self? You're an entrepreneur. You're an author. You do things of this world. How do you get not caught into the fruitive mentality or the greed mentality or the control mentality or the prestige mentality that comes with being an entrepreneur, running a business, having a best-selling book, being on, getting some spotlight? How can you pull back and zoom? Tell me how you apply spiritual life to your business acumen.
Yeah, this is a great question. I mean, it comes with the life design, and from there's a perspective that we all plan our lives, right? We create exactly the mandala for the experience we want to have.
Nice.
And I have this thing in my astrological chart that puts the money that comes into my life as other people's money. I don't have any ability to be controlled by money. I also had the beautiful experience of being dismantled financially and losing all of our money over a 9-year period with 4 children.
Congratulations.
Thank you.
Congratulations. Been
Thank
there,
you so
done
much.
that.
Yeah, it was a great alchemizing, profound, like spiritual journey. Crazy, amazing. But for me, I am a bhakti yogi through and through. So everything for me is devotion, and it is for her. It's done for the breath, for the Great Mother. And so everything for me is one thing. Like my bio, you read all these things. She's this, she's that. No, it's just one thing. It's one thing that comes
Right.
through whatever the medium is. And I am incarnated for big impact. So even in my cheese company, it's a ritual of food and a vehicle of cheese. And it's not a ritual of food to make someone attached to me or to experience life as me or to believe as me. It's to empower them to connect to their God breath, because all of us are directly connected, free of guru, ism, religion, construct. And so the reason that I created Water Tiger is because I was overcome about, I don't know, over 5 or 6 years ago by the amount of debris that is being broadcast around the earth, just all the incessant filming and, I'm going to brush my teeth now, or like whatever people are sharing.
Here's what I'm eating.
Yeah, so then the thing is I was like, wait. So I've had a lot of spiritual experiences. I'm a mystic. I live in a mystical way. I mean, I've had hundreds of mystical experiences. I've studied with different Vedic masters, occult masters. I've had a 23-year alliance with a galactic quantum scientist from the planet Sirius. I've worked with Lakota Sioux chiefs in Sweat Lodge for 2 years. I've been with Mayan elders. So it's a lot, right? So you could say she left no stone unturned. And what have I learned, or what have I gleaned through this experience is it's all perspective. And so if I ask a Palladian consciousness a question, it's going to be answered from that lens, because we're all individualized. So what is the most important perspective for each of us? It's yours, your perspective. And I even go to, we're all our own individual universes. Like I'm in my own individual universes, and you're all now a part of it. We're exchanging. But your journey to self-realization will be unique to you and you alone. And let's just say, I love the Vedic lineage. I am steeped in it. It is in my DNA. You can trace it back. It's not made up. I'm not Ananda Srimati because I decided that, I wanted that. It's organic to my state. And I love the lineage, but I am not of the lineage. I am not controlled by any lineage. I precede the lineage. If you start to think that we are future beings that have incarnated to shift maybe a timeline or an outcome. So water tiger is something that created through me that is simple. It's useful for anyone. And we all have different, talents or abilities. And one of mine is a transmission that comes through the word, like you, like through music, through speaking. So I have channeled from me these techniques, and they're meditation techniques which can guide you into dropping you into the gap or increasing your divine intelligence in your body so that you develop an embodied experience of being a vibrating light emanation of God consciousness. It also awakens the equanimity, the release of this judgment of what's the best diet, what's the best guru, what's the best whatever. It depends. In Tantra, the answer is for whom and when. What stage of life are you in? What is your life, what is your life design? So Water Tiger is a living sphere of techniques. The user subscribes on a monthly and uses over 50 techniques at their will and choice. There's no even step 1, step 2, step 3. It's like pick what works for you. And then I do a 2-hour satsang, gathering like this every month where I do a planetary update. And then I take all of the questions. But one of the things that we're moving more into is that, I'm a teacher. I teach yoga, I teach breath work, but I usually do these on retreats in a very concentrated, not daily like you. You're like my inspiration. But, I've been doing a lot of other things, but I really feel like you can talk about what a peach tastes like for freaking hundreds of hours. And we have thousands of hours of podcasts of people talking about what a peach tastes like. But is anybody tasting the peach?
Right. There's a lot of noise, like you said, a lot of, what was the word you used? There was just a lot of static or a lot of, noise coming through. It's an information overload. Yeah. I have to know what's going. I can find out what's going on in every corner of the world, and although we think that's good for us, I don't think our cup can hold so much, and it creates like this mental burden. So the tools you're talking about are not just good; they're sort of a necessity to filter out the overwhelm. And my daughter, who was saying to me yesterday, she's like, these phones are very addictive. And sometimes my little boy, my 11-year-old, will call me up and says, "Dad, I've been on YouTube too much. I think it's addictive." He has these moments where he just becomes very, very clear like that. And I say, you know what? I'm not above it. I'm not above it. We all can fall down this slippery slope of little addictive things that give us a quick dopamine dump, but that doesn't mean there's not essential information out there. Do you have a little teaser that you can give us of a meditational practice maybe we can take with us today?
Yeah, that'd be great. Well, let's just drop in. So if you feel aligned, allow your eyes to close, and let's all meet here in the center of the heart. So we're going to enter in the place where you first feel, where that inkling, that love of a puppy, your love of your beloved, let's enter there. And go ahead and let your belly go. And
finally,
gather all of our energy into this point. And we're going to imagine a flame, threefold flame. The tip of your thumb is the size. And let's meet there in that presence, in that essence that is connecting all of us. And I'm just going to ask our future selves as we've gathered here on this divine podcast meeting to clear and balance, synthesize, harmonize all of the energies that we have experienced during the night as we have gone out of our bodies into other realities. So I'm just going to call for a return to rightful owner, all of our energies. And let's completely integrate, align, harmonize, synthesize. and arrive into the present moment. You might feel your spine lifting from the crown of your head. And let's go into that flame and grab the amber colored caramel frequency. And this is the Amrita. So the Amrita that releases from the brain when the Paramhamsa takes flight. Let's grab this frequency and let's push it out around our body, 4 feet in every direction. And this frequency is a caramel color. It is thick like honey, but it is not honey. It is the Amrita. So feel the cocoon that this creates around your energy system. And as your bodies are harmonizing and aligning, feel the amplification of this energy and the protection that it gives you. Not that there's anything really to protect, but we want to amplify the light field in the highest vibration. So feeling that very present, now let's allow your skin to receive this energy. So let your skin be permeable and allow the energy to penetrate through every layer of your body. Skin, tissue, muscle, bone, bone marrow. Sympathetic, parasympathetic nervous system, endocrine system. And now see if you can open even a little further, become very transparent and allow this Amrita to really travel and permeate every space inside your energetic field. And taking a deep inhale through the nose and releasing that out through the mouth, feeling yourself arriving present, whole, completely self-sustaining. You are your own sovereign ecosystem. And so it is. So maybe just allowing your eyes to open and coming back into the space and feeling the shift of that visualization. So that's a little taste. I could have gone off, but I was afraid I might run over.
That is a nice way to start your morning. I feel you're such a light, a bright light. Do you have and bright lights come from either the torch was given to them or they practiced it, I think. What we call in our tradition a nitya siddha or a sadhana siddha. We practice to get this light and get these attitudes. Did you come from a family of deep, thoughtful, spiritual people? Is it something you practice? Was there a shift at a certain point in your life that said, you know what, there's a new me in town?
I just came in this way. Not that I had all the awareness when I was born. I didn't have all the pieces. And I think the Vedic lineage found me later in my 20s. And that's really a very powerful thread in my past lifetimes. I've had many lifetimes in different lineages, which is maybe one of the reasons why I break all the rules and just do everything the way that I want. But I do have my maternal grandfather, Ernesto Rosado, was a yogi in Chile 100 years ago. And when my mom was little, he was, doing, astral traveling, and she couldn't touch his body and while he was out. And he healed her of tuberculosis in the astral. and plugged himself into the wall with kinds of copper and things like that. So it seems to be like that's the DNA thread, at least in that human story. But I never met him. My mother would tell me, my father would have loved you. My father would have loved you.
Oh, wow.
But I'm definitely like most of us, we incarnate into families that are not our frequency. So it's the,
Sure.
fish out of water. I don't belong here.
Who are these people?
Who are these people?
How did I get here?
Yeah, but that's why we do it that way, because if, we incarnated together, we just go off in a cave and there'd be no work being done. So
Sure. You tell this great story of healing yourself of a cyst that you had.
yeah.
What was that about? How did you go
Yeah,
through that?
so
How did
I
you come
had
out the
just
other
been
side?
yeah, it's crazy. So I'm a thin person, and I've always been able to just eat whatever I want to eat, so
Yeah.
that's just the way that
Hate you for that.
yeah, so, and like I said, also my mom, is a beautiful being, but she was a horrible cook. Not her fault, but she just never learned how to cook. And so, food was sort of like, you eat when you're hungry and get what you need. And it was kind of every man for himself type of thing. So we
Right.
did have dinners together, but it was just, it was not that high vibe. So I'm 40, I don't know, 45 maybe, just given birth to my fourth child. And I suddenly realized I have a gigantic golf ball sized cyst in my neck,
Oh God.
just immediately. So I go to the doctor, and it's called a thyroglossial duct cyst, which is something that happens in children between the ages of 8 and 12. So it makes no sense whatsoever. And they tell me that I need to have surgery. They're going to cut out a cross section of the bones in my neck.
Ugh.
It's like, yeah, no, you're not going to do that. So I had, I don't know if anybody watches Entourage. If you've ever watched Entourage, did you ever watch Entourage?
I never watched it. I'm not that TV literate.
Okay, well,
I'm sure you're not that
there's
TV literate either, but
there's an actress on that show named Perry Reeves, and Perry Reeves and I had been in a tantric program with Shiva Ray, and a guru that she was studying with, who ended up to be like really in shenanigans, and if I write a script, it'll be really hilarious. But anyway, so Perry was raised with Ayurvedic awareness. Like, she never ate processed sugar, and Perry's 60 and she looks 40. And she had said to me at one point, because I was like, oh, this Ayurvedic doctor, like, could I reach out to him? And she said, well, not unless you're willing to change your entire lifestyle, your entire way of eating. So then I declined. And then when I got the cyst, I called her, and I worked with an Indian Ayurvedic physician. I went to his apartment and in his basement, and he wrote a prescription exactly of the foods I could eat. And he gave me a bag of sewage, sulfur, dirt, and the smelliest herbs you've ever encountered.
yeah.
I drank those herbs every night, and I wrapped my my cyst in this this paste every night.
Yes.
And hundreds of pustules started coming out on my face.
Good morning, everybody.
Everybody was telling me, stop taking the herbs. Stop.
Right.
You have to stop, because in our culture we don't want to look at the dark,
At the ugly, yeah.
Yeah, the
Cover
ugly.
that up.
So
Paint over that quick.
Yeah, I don't know why or how. I just knew. And then I knew that I was gaining, because it went down a little bit, and the doctors had told me there was no possibility of healing it myself, because it was fused between two bones. And so I just did that, and like Rich and the kids would run from the kitchen because it smelled so bad, and I just chugged these herbs every day, and then my body just healed herself, and it was gone.
Beautiful.
Yeah.
I love when you get condemned by the medical society, and then you say, oh yeah, let's try this and see. It's such a beautiful story. And guess what, Julie, Srimati, I could talk to you for another 10 hours right now. I still didn't even get to the heart of all my questions, but It is time. Thank you for joining us. And so we're going to put your information up on our show notes. But quickly, what's your website?
The website is juliepiatt.com, but you can find me on Instagram. I'm at Srimati, Srimati.
At Srimati. Okay. We're going to get hopefully a bunch more followers. Thank you so much for spending your morning with us. Really appreciate it, and I really appreciate you, and I'm looking forward to our future connection. And now I'm inspired to eat cheese today. Vegan cheese, Mara. Let's do this. And I'm excited about your. I know I don't have the other two cookbooks. Let me get those too. We always. Mara takes care of all my. She feeds me well. My mother was also a lousy cook. For an Italian, she dropped the ball on that. But Mara fulfills all those desires of mine, right down to the cheese. I think in our first meetings, you brought cheese over. But thanks so much for all that you do. People appreciate it, and it was a very nice contribution. Okay, it's a beautiful day for a beautiful day. Let the magic continue to flow, and Amaha Haribo.